Greeting friends, Reformed Stoic here, back with another video. We're just going to keep things rolling. Going to shoot for a video a day. So this video is some things I've learned since being a Christian. I've learned a lot since being a Christian, so this will definitely not be everything that I've learned, but just a few tidbits for you, hopefully maybe some eye-opening wisdom or something like that. So one thing that I've learned since becoming a Christian is that it's a big deal to other people. I used to read horoscopes, I used to read tarot cards, I used to be into all sorts of different kind of occultism. Now, when I moved to Vegas in 2014, I was into that stuff right out the gate, but it kind of deepened and expanded as I got there. I got more and more isolated as I was there. And it got to a point where there wasn't really that many people I was even, communicating with. But initially, 2013, 2014, when I was first getting into occult kind of stuff and spirituality, I was letting people know about it. I read tarot cards for my friends here in Kodiak. I read tarot cards in Boston. Nobody really cared. Nobody really cares when you're into horoscopes. Nobody really cares if you're at a party and you're like, yeah, man, I've been studying astrotheology. Somebody will probably be like, oh, cool, dude, you should check out the Kabbalah. I remember that was an interaction I had when I was, buying weed from somebody and smoking up a little bit. Maybe some people will think it's, kind of weird, but they won't make a deep judgment of you as a person. I can tell you that when you are on board with Christ, especially when it's later in life, because I'll just go ahead and throw this out now. I've noticed, this is one of the things I've learned being a Christian, there's a big difference between someone who is a Christian, from their childhood, raised a Christian, stayed a Christian their entire life, and becoming a Christian later in life. Big difference. And I'm not saying there's any sort of superiority either way. I'd say there's a very good chance that the person raised as a Christian maybe has a better life. And that's just, probably an overgeneralization, but it's a great way to be, man. Being raised as a Christian, Christian schools, Christian friends, family, Christian values, it's a very good path to success. Okay, you find a lot of Catholic wrestlers and athletes and people who go off to Christian schools and colleges and get master's degrees and yada yada. There's definitely that lane, but the point is, big difference between being raised Christian and converting later in life. I think you have a chance to learn some deeper wisdom as a later convert in life, okay? Not implying that you can't have that deeper wisdom being raised Christian, but you submerge yourself into the world in worldly ways, and then you learn about Christianity and faith later in life, and you embrace it. There will be some hidden gems that you've gathered from immersing yourself so deep into the world. Yeah, so when you're telling somebody that you're a Christian, their view of you will change. And it could very well cause problems with your friendship. It could intimidate that person, but they're not going to let you know that you're intimidated. They're going to act in a way where they're not comfortable around you, and they could spread rumors, and it could be bad. It's a big deal. It's a big deal in your family, friends. Even if your other family are Christians or claim to be Christians. I was having dinner with my family, and I had some out-of-town family, my uncle and my aunt, and, it just was kind of brought up that I converted to Catholicism, and I just mentioned how I studied theology, And I mentioned in passing like how long it took me to realize that I wanted to be a Catholic and why I specifically wanted to be a Catholic. And I feel like my uncle almost panicked and was like, oh, well, you know, all religions are great. Buddhism and Hinduism and Judaism. Like, I swear, he started to, like, panic when I just mentioned that studying theology led me to understand why I specifically wanted to be a Catholic. So, so that's the first thing I can tell you, is that it's a big deal to be a Christian, okay? You're not just going to mention it at a party, hey man, I have faith in Jesus Christ and I'm into the Bible. And you'll probably get to a point where you don't go to parties anymore. Hopefully. So, and then as a sub point in that point, like there's a big difference between growing up Christian and converting later in life. So, the second thing that I've realized is like having something at the center of your life. And as a Christian, it's really like black or white. You can't half-arse it. If you claim to be a Christian, if you have faith in Jesus Christ, that needs to be at the center of your life. And what I've realized is that people need that. So people who aren't Christians, they're either not going to have anything at the center of their life, which is going to result in partying, drugs, addiction, trying to have lots of one-night stands and sex, trying to fit in, trying to force yourself to be extroverted, maybe falling into like narcissism, all the way up to malignant narcissism, and you'll be unhappy, unorganized. I mean, it's a good way to just be degenerate. I'm sorry. Like, when you don't have anything at the center of your life, you don't have direction, you don't have any sort of compass guiding you. Now, what also happens is people will find something to put at the center of their life that is kind of like a secular means of replacing religion. Now, what do we see with this? Very often, the popular answer would be woke, far left, cancel culture, radical cultural Marxism, liberalism, whatever you want to call it, you know, Black Lives Matter, Antifa kind of stuff. Now, I feel like the less popular answer in these circles would be the kind of right-wing equivalent to that, you know, far-right, borderlining neo-Nazi, or just straight-up neo-Nazi, MGTOW, black pill, that kind of stuff as well. Like, you're going to find some sort of an ideology to take the place, to kind of like hold the place of your center, and it's just going to make you cringe, man. Like, ultimately, all that stuff, when it is like deep in the center of who you are, is cringe, and it's not going to get you very far in life. Okay, so I've said how like I went on like a perennial quest that kind of led me to my faith, and there has not been any sort of a big unmasking of the reality of the world as there has been with Christianity. There was no big aha moment in occultism, you know? It's like the world was still the world that I thought it was, you know, a little bit different. It's like, oh, there's energy and there's spirits, and I can try to gain power, I can try to gain insight, I can try to maybe make a pact with an entity or something. But the great unveiling, the great revelation of how things really are as a Christian, you know, it's kind of like the opposite of, like, you grow up and at some point you're going to see like an Adam Sandler movie. I'm thinking in Little Nicky, like when there's like the crazy homeless guy, like the homeless Baptist guy is like, the fire and damnation and I'm burning, we're all going to be burning, everybody's going to hell, you know, the guy on the sidewalk with a sign. And you come across those people and you think, oh, that's some like loony extremist Christian who thinks that the end is coming, right? Like the crazy fundamentalist Christians. Like, you start off realizing that stereotype, and thinking they're nuts, and then you get to a point where it's like, those people are pretty much right. Those people are pretty much right. And if you're not a regular around here, which is getting to a point where I'm looking for some new audience members around here, so that might sound a little bit extreme. I don't want to put people off, but the world is not right. People are very misled. Society has been heading in the wrong direction. It would take me a while to unpack my regular spiel, but being a Catholic, I would say the very beginning was kind of the Protestant Reformation. More or less, that just made way for some of these corrupt powers to start positioning themselves to manipulate these people who had left the embrace of the church. And that would kind of go on to Freemasonry and the Royal Society, which built British imperialism, which would lead all the way to post-World War II, United States, Western world. This is where secularism really started growing in the West, okay? I point out that atheism was an idea in the intellectual classes and circles through the 1800s. People like to point out we got Nietzsche, God is dead. Well, that's late 1800s, early 1900s. These ideas, this is people reading philosophy and intellectuals, and it was known, but it was embraced in the post-World War II modern world, and things are sick, and people are lost. And going back to my earlier point, like, you need a center. People don't have a center anymore, okay? Atheism and scientism, science and academia, this did not replace Christianity as a center, as a guiding compass, as a moral compass, as just a center of all things for people. That was not replaced by anything. So that leaves people kind of wounded and desperate and searching, and it makes you the perfect consumer. And I feel like venture capitalists and the elite know this. So all of these wounded people, they look for things to lead them. They look for things to fill the emptiness, and so you buy things, you slave away to spend money at the bars, try to attract women of the night. You look for advice and wisdom in TV shows like Friends and Seinfeld and pop culture. Ah, yes, so the great unveiling. When I was into these occult circles, there were people kind of dishing out the Rothschilds and George Soros and Rockefeller, but they were giving a very misconstrued, inaccurate worldview, because the reality is that these great influencers of the modern world have been guiding people away from Christianity. So I was kind of getting this pseudo unveiling of the big picture, but the real big picture comes from being a Christian and the Christian worldview. So that point was that there's no bigger unveiling of the world than through Christianity, than through the Christian worldview. So let's see if I can think of anything else before we go. I'll think of one more point. We're about 15 minutes in. I guess for my last point, I can just reiterate that it's so freeing. It's dangerously freeing. It will make people upset, okay? It will make people around you upset when you realize that hookup culture is just toxic, okay? It's not just because God doesn't want you to do it. It starts with God doesn't want you to do it, but then you think about how you were just trying to fill this emptiness inside of yourself, and you were trying to elevate your status in the eyes of people, and it's all wrong, it's bad, you shouldn't do it because of God, but eventually you realize that it's nothing, man. It's meaningless. Sex is a sacred thing between a man and a woman who are bound together through marriage. And if you're not married, you know what, man? Like, it's kind of gross. It's kind of gross. And I'm sure a lot of people aren't really there yet, but I don't want to be like... This has been a pretty wholesome video. I don't want to go into like graphic detail, but you know, there's like smells and noises, and it's something that should be saved for someone who's special to you. And I guess it just goes back to that same point, but when you cut these things out of your life, when you cut the drugs out of your life, when you cut the alcohol out of your life, when you cut out the desperate seeking of validation and fornication and secular relationships, you just realize that you don't need the things that you thought you needed. And you can actually be whole. You can get to a place where you're like, I have my faith, I am working to be a better person, and you know what it means to be a better person. There's actually an objective measure of what it means to be a better person. You're not just guessing. You're not taking some secular academic worldview. It's like, oh, you know, this guy's really smart, so it must be true. No, this is the objective measure of how to be a good person. You're working on that, and then, you know, it's okay to enjoy things. And what I am finding lately, I guess I'll just sneak this point in there too, when you try to hold yourself to the standard of a priest, because you want to grow in holiness, and I find these people like Friar Ripperger, I think that's how that's pronounced. His name is weird to me, but it's a little bit intimidating when they're saying, like, you know, cut out everything but God. You don't want to half-arse it with God, just everything gone, only in the presence of God all the time. That's a little bit intense. You got to get to a point, it's like, okay, he's a priest, and I do want to learn from that, and that's not a terrible goal to have, but it's okay to be realistic. It's okay to eat a couple of cupcakes. If beer doesn't do you bad, a couple of beers here and there is fine. For me, that just doesn't even work for me. But it's okay to, like, have a pinky toe in the world, you know? Like, don't stress yourself out and go insane, like, trying to, like, hold yourself to the standard of a priest, okay? People take different kinds of... there's levels to it, and ultimately, I think I'm at least shooting to be on a pretty high level, because I have taken some serious battle scars from my conversion. I watched a chosen one, I can't remember who it was, one of these chosen ones on YouTube was talking about how you were one of the star players of the opposing team, and you switched sides, and they're upset because you know their game plan, because you know how they operate. Well, I used to be in the occult, I used to, you know, play death metal music, and I used to be pretty outspoken against Christianity, and I have had a very powerful conversion, and I see things completely different now, and it's been a wild ride for me, but I feel more complete than I ever have. You know, I got my lovely cats. I got one of them right here. This is the Rockin' Rug. I got my cats. I got my apartment. Hopefully at some point I'll have a different apartment, or maybe a trailer. I'm actually thinking about just getting a trailer, because I want some land and privacy. I want to be able to play drums. But you just don't need much to be happy, man. And it doesn't come right away. It doesn't necessarily come easy, but it all goes back to that earlier point. It's such a big point. Like, you don't have anything in your center. If you put something in your center, which you will probably try, it will be stupid. It will be not worthy of holding your center. And when you get all that crap out of there, man, when you get a real center, it's like, man, I don't need to get high. I don't need to get drunk. I don't need to sleep with as many women as I can. I don't need these things. It gets to a point where you don't miss these things, and it's just so much better, you guys, in every way. maybe from the outside looking in, it's like, oh man, I feel like maybe I do believe in God, in Jesus, in the Bible, but it sounds kind of like a bummer, and I want to have fun. And I assure you, my friends, start wherever you got to start. If it starts with, okay, I have faith in Jesus Christ, but I don't know if I really want to do anything about it. Well, at least that's a start. Take it slow, but take it, you know? Baby steps, one foot in front of the other. This world, I don't want to say it's a terrible place. This is God's creation. There are good times to be had here. There are some good people out there. But it's all about understanding what's important. And there's a lot of people who don't understand what's important. And a lot of those people are in your life, man. And when they get a whiff of you with this new motivation, with this new light, with this new drive, new sense of purpose, they will be intimidated, they will be angry, and they will want to undercut you. They will want to hurt your self-esteem. It can get really bad, man. They can want to do violence to you. They can want to see terrible things happen to you. They might even want to see you dead, okay? It's extreme. It's a big deal to be a Christian. It's a big deal to have the real center at the center of your life. It's a big deal for the world to be unveiled for what it truly is. And yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. So I'm going to have to do a little bit of editing here because I had to take a couple of pauses to think about what I was going to say. But that's a little something for you. God bless you guys, and I'll see you next time. Peace out.